Today's episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott. Now, Joe is not only a fantastic guitar player, he draws on his years of experience as the ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and also at the McNally Smith Music College. Here's a few words from Joe about the course.
If you're tired of wading through hundreds of random guitar videos and just want to become a better player, Fretboard Biology is your answer. Fretboard Biology is a self-paced, college-level program that'll give you the right instruction, in the right amounts, and in the right order. You'll learn the same information I taught to thousands of other guitar players over 30 years of teaching in top music colleges. If you want to make real progress with your guitar playing, then sign up for a free 7-day trial at fretboardbiology.com.
Hi there, you are listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. My name is Matt Wakeling and this is the show that I produce in Sydney, Australia, talking all things guitars. And over the last couple of years, the Iconic series has been added to the largely interview-based show. And for this, I am joined by my friends, Rob Rhodes.
Hello.
And Gabor Josika.
Hello.
Hello to you both. Fellas, we've been at this for a bit over 2 years.
I know.
It's been very cool.
Great.
Haven't aged none of us have aged the day either.
No.
We look great.
No.
We look great.
I put lots of Vaseline on the camera so no one can see it.
We've got an AI filter making me look younger. So it's, actually, I might switch it and I'll look like Harrison Ford.
Also a good look.
Yeah.
Also very good. So the Iconic Albums series, we started off talking about some of our favourite records with obviously a guitar angle, and we've kind of morphed into these kind of specialty shows, which has been so much fun. So we're just going to jump straight in. Tonight's theme is accidental iconic albums. And Gabor, this was your idea. Do you want to tell us the philosophy, the framework, the oeuvre we are pursuing tonight? When I say tonight, we're recording tonight, ladies and gentlemen, but you can listen anytime you like.
But it's always live whenever you listen.
Yeah. You can phone in on 1-800 with your questions.
And if you have those special Apple glasses, you can watch it at any time live as well. So accidental iconic. So the idea was that sometimes there are albums or music, or maybe less now, but when I was younger, that I see a film clip on TV, I really like the song, I go and buy the album, and then all of a sudden there is really good guitar playing on there that wasn't necessarily anticipated. So that was sort of the idea. And do you guys know any, right? Which I think Rob was already cursing me before and shaking his fist at me. So
yeah, well, we had that conversation last week when we caught up for coffee in person.
Yeah, I know. We do that every once in a while.
IRL, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I just thought that there were a couple of albums. So, for example, just as a mention, as another album, not the one that I'm going to talk about, but another album, "Come Away With Me," Norah Jones.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily think about it as a great guitar album, but then the guitarist Adam Levy on it, he's a great guitar player. He has a great YouTube channel too, by the way. Actually, go and check him out if you lots of theory and stuff like that. Beautiful playing, so stuff like that. Where you hear a song, you go, "Oh, that's a cool song." You buy the album and you go, actually, there's some cool guitar playing on there too, without it being a guitar-specific album. So I think that was sort of the idea.
Yeah, love it.
So should I kick it off then with mine or the one I picked?
Yeah, jump in, man.
Okay, so the one I picked was She by Harry Connick Jr. Now, She was an album... So, into a little backstory for me, right? So in the 90s, if you listen to this Iconic series, you may have sort of realized I was a bit of a sort of into the sort of grungy kind of thing, the whole sort of 90s punk thing, grunge thing. Also a little bit of sort of quirky music, stuff like Mr. Bungle and Primus and all that sort of stuff. But I was also right into a lot of sort of funk, also jazz, swing jazz, bands like the Meters and Stevie Wonder and Prince and Average White Band and Tower of Power, all that sort of stuff. I was really into all that sort of stuff too. And I heard this song, Whisper Your Name, If I Could Only Whisper Your Name, on TV. And if you watch the film clip, there's only a very short guitar solo on it. So the guitar solo didn't really stick out to me. but I really liked the song. And back in those days, we couldn't just go on our phone and download the album and listen to it. We kind of went, you know what? I like this. I'm going to buy the album. And I bought the album, and the guitar playing on it is excellent. And that's sort of what I picked. Accidental, iconic guitar playing. Now, so the album is from the year 1994. All it says in the album is that it was recorded, and I have the actual physical CD here.
Me too. I don't have it with me like you
It's
do,
a great album.
I did take it out to read the liner notes.
All it says is it was recorded in New Orleans or Orleans. It doesn't really say what studio. In 1994, and it was released on July 12, 1994. It was produced by a long-term collaborator with Harry Connick Jr., Tracy Freeman, who still produces a lot of Harry Connick's albums now, up till now. Also, little noticeable little nugget, fun fact, the drummer and bass player on the album, so the drummer, Joseph Zigaboo Modelist. You've got to be cool when you have a nickname like Zigaboo.
Great name.
And the bass player, George Porter Jr., were both founding members of the Meters. So they were both, they were the drummer, and George Porter Jr. was a bass player and singer of the Meter, original singer and bass player.
Okay.
So little nuggets,
know that.
little Rob's fun fact, but by Gabor today. So the guitarist on that album is a guy called Jonathan Dubose, or sometimes also Jonathan Dubose Jr., depends. Sometimes they call him Junior, sometimes not. He played with a lot of artists, particularly sort of in the gospel world, but probably the most noticeable other artists he played with were Vanessa Williams and Angie Stone. And he still plays with Harry Connick Jr. from time to time. By the looks of it, both of you have the album as an actual physical copy, so you both would have heard the album prior. So, Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we, like my family, I had this album in the 90s, pretty soon after it came out.
Yeah.
That I don't know what prompted that. Maybe it was the Whisper Your Name single as well, but just chock full of great songs, great performances, and for the theme of this episode, killer guitar playing, wall to wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 90s. I mean, you were talking about lots of different styles in the 90s. I was probably stretching out a little bit too. When I was younger, it was all about the really obvious guitar albums. So, like AC/DC or whatever metal band I was into. Because you couldn't miss the guitars. So, but as for me, and maybe perhaps what you're saying, and I know for Rob probably too as well, as we get a little bit older, you start listening to more stuff. You appreciate maybe some more subtlety. So there was heaps of that on this record. I ended up seeing the tour whenever he toured Australia, 95 or 96, or when at the Encent in Sydney. And I think it was pretty much the original band. It was Jonathan Dubose. Dubose. I don't know if he was junior or not for the tour, but he was ripping, man. He was
great player.
He was going
He's
hard.
A great player.
So it was cool. It was great record, and the tracks you're going to mention are all killers.
Yeah. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I think I bought it. I might have bought it in 94, maybe even 95, like a little bit later, after hearing that one track, Whisper Her Name.
Yeah.
And I think I might have heard the album, or maybe I was the same as you, heard it on the radio. It was just a short guitar break. And I went, that's promising. And I like that kind of New Orleans sound, that he had on that album, because he's been a crooner. He's been so many different things, Harry Connick. So for him to move into that sort of more pop gospel kind of area, it spoke to me.
He's even been a district attorney.
Wow. And he's been a judge on The Voice. Or No, sorry, American Idol, wasn't it?
It was one
and
of those
Red
shows.
Faces.
And The Voice,
Law and Order, he was a district attorney.
Law and Order.
Yeah.
But same as you, like in 94, the other records I was listening to was, I just listed a few just to show how diverse, like, you just stumbled across it, and it is an accidental guitar record. But I was listening to Alison Chone's Jar of Flies, Pearl Jam's Vitology, Jeff Buckley's Grace, Bon Jovi's Crossroads, Screaming Jets, Tear of Thought, and Diesel's Solid State Rhyme, which we've covered on an episode.
Yeah.
So when you throw Harry Connick into that, you're like, yeah, it definitely qualifies as an accidental guitar record, because I think every other record I bought that year was because of guitar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is what kind of made this a tough, task. I think this topic. It was good. It was a challenge.
Yeah, that's what I
it.
thought. It's not the easiest thing in the world, to pick, but I thought it could be fun, and yeah, we'll find out anyway after you shake your fist at me a few more times during the podcast. But...
We'll check the comments in Insta.
So the three songs I picked were bracket If I Could Only, close bracket Whisper Your Name. There's a lot of brackets on this album actually. That was one song. The second song was Honestly Now, and then in bracket Safety's Just Danger Out of Place. And the third song was Joe Slam and the Spaceship. So now basically, this is just what I sort of wrote down, right? So with Whisper Your Name, I remember seeing the film clip. I really liked the song. It's only the shortened version of the guitar solo. I bought the CD, very surprised by the guitar playing on it. The solo and the songs on the song is a fair bit longer. It's some really interesting playing. It's a killer guitar solo. And it's actually in that song, and like in a couple of other songs on that album, there's a whole different section. The song goes into a whole different thing specifically for the solo. It usually starts and ends with a cool little run. And then it goes to this completely different part for the guitar solo, which I love. I think that's great. Not enough people do that. Yeah. Where they, a completely different section for the instrumental section. Should also quickly mention gear-wise, not sure what he was actually, there's no information on the recording, but live he seems to always be using a natural colored, what looks like a 70s Strat because it has the bigger headstock, with a maple board. So maple board natural with white pickguard Strat. A lot of times a Roland JC120. There are a few live clips where he had a Marshall stack behind him, which is kind of a bit of an odd thing for like a Harry Connick style band. But a lot of times you see a Roland JC120, and in some clips it looks like there's a green pedal on the floor, which I'm guessing is a tube screamer that he kicks in for some lead stuff. I mean, I wouldn't call his overdriven tone the greatest tone in the world, but I mean, if it's a JC120, yeah. But his playing is insane, and the clean playing is beautiful. Okay, so let's just go through the song. So I think we sort of talked about Whisper Your Name already. Should we talk about that or move on to the next one?
Yeah, I just wrote a couple of things down. Cool. Like the bass line instantly just pulls you in. Like it's just one of those introductory things. When you first hear it, you go, "All right, I'm in." Whatever happens after this, like I'm happy. And
then the cool little drum fill. And then, and then a horn section that's great. And
the little muted guitar, single note guitar stuff is so sweet.
Yeah.
And then I noticed like that little, what you were saying, the little runs in, bit of a tip of the hat to Back in Black, better.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah.
And then into that killer guitar solo. But I actually love the piano solo after the guitar solo so much more. I love that double time, like, I don't know, would you call it ragtime feel? But yeah, he's just...
It's so Harry Connick Jr.
It's amazing.
Have you seen... There's a clip that's going around where in that song, he plays the solo and the people are clapping along and they're clapping on a 1 and a 3. Yes. And then he does this little thing where he puts an extra bar into it and then they clap on the 2 and the 4 instead of the 1 and the 3.
An extra beat, yeah.
That's like that's so great to do, yeah. That's such a cool clip, yeah.
Oh, yes,
Matt, anything else you want to add to that song?
I think you guys have covered it beautifully. The riff is awesome. That chromatic riff is cool. And at the end of the song, when the chromatic riff comes in again and the drums...
Goes out of time with the rest of the band.
The drums are freaky. That's so cool. So I didn't know the meters back in the 90s.
Yeah.
When this album came. So when you said tonight that it was the meters rhythm section, now that I know more about the meters, I'm like, okay, this sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
So I love that too. Have you guys ever played this song live? Has it ever been called on a gig?
Always wanted to, but never. It just doesn't work. You need to have a brass section and you need to have a piano because otherwise
you need
it just
a lot
doesn't
to
work.
make it work. I have played it somewhere. I can't remember what. It might have been a super wedding band, like a 20-piece wedding band or something.
I think I did a solo gig once at the Bull and Bush with Tracks.
Okay.
Full of bush.
And I think I did this, and there was no one there, so nobody cared. But yeah, I just picked some fun songs when I started doing solo gigs because I'd never really done them. So I started with all those MIDI-based backing tracks, and there was one, and then I changed all the instruments that sounded like Gumby and Pokey, and I changed all those MIDI sounds via the Cubase sound library to make them sound a bit more real.
Nice.
And I had that song, and I had some weird Sting ones, If I Ever Lose My Faith in You, and so it's just weird
Great
songs that had cool guitar moments in it,
That's great.
But I think that was the one-time thing because I just realized I don't want to do solo gigs again. I kind of turned it up for a few years.
Fair enough. Can I ask you guys a question as well without notice? You've both mentioned the shorter guitar solo on the radio edit.
Yeah.
When you know the solo's long and you hear the short version on the radio, or sometimes for me I'm in Woolies and I'm dead in the Woolies demographic because they're now playing all my favorite songs. Which makes me happy when I'm there, but it also makes me sad. So, but do you get like angry or annoyed when you hear the short edit version?
Yeah, absolutely.
Any songs stand out? Because for me, it's My Life, Bon Jovi. They cut that solo short every time. I'm like,
yeah, that happens a lot with a lot of cool guitar solos that cut short, aren't they? It's annoying.
Yeah. Or the fade out, the killer fade out, and then the DJ just talks right over it.
All right, we've got $2.50 basic spirits all night long. That's the $2.50. Right. That was a long time ago, actually. Sorry, that was really like $14.50 basic spirit.
I agree. And the edit on this solo, like it's all the solo, and then you hear just the harmony stinger note at the end.
Yeah.
The bend, wow, and it's harmonized.
Yeah.
And you think, anyway, okay, thank you.
It's great. It's great.
Back to you, Rob. Back to you, Gabor.
Yeah, cool. I mean, that's that song. Yeah, I had actually a discussion with the drummer the other day about the outro because I think the drummer goes out of sync with but it's sort of what do you call it? Syncopated. So it's not syncopated. It's what do you call it? Polyrhythm. Yeah. So it all ends up on the one, but from start to finish, they kind of go out of sync, but it ends up on the one when it ends.
Yeah,
I forgot what time signature the drums go into versus the guitar and the rest of the band. But yeah, it's cool. It's really interesting outro. Cool. All right, next song. I reckon probably the best guitar track on that whole album. Honestly, now Safety's Just Danger Out of Place. Now that's one of those songs that you first listen to it first starts and you kind of go, there's a really kind of depressing ballad, like sad sort of sounding ballad. So this is just what I wrote down again. So it starts off as a ballad, acoustic guitar. Once the band kicks in, the guitar doubles the bass. And also there's heaps of modulations going on. So the song starts in F minor, but there's also a few chords that are not in F minor that are sort of outside, but mostly F minor. Then modulates G minor when it goes to the first instrumental section. Because you've got the ballady part, then there's this run, and it modulates up a tone to G minor, and then there's an instrumental section without a solo, just an instrumental section, then it modulates up again to A minor, another tone, and then the solo starts, which is a completely different part to the instrumental section. So it's cool. So you have twice modulating and two completely different instrumental parts. And that's sort of when the actual solo starts, which is in A minor. It's sort of all over the place. There's cool harmonies that sort of sneak in and out all the way through as well. It goes for ages. It's a really long solo.
It's so long.
Yeah. And then it ends.
A few long songs in this series.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's totally. 7 or 8 minute long song, that one. And probably about 5 of that is the solo.
Now we're talking.
It ends on another really cool run. Sort of a lengthy kind of run. It's such a great solo and I mean, this is not just accidental iconic on an album. This is sort of accidental in a song. Like you would not expect that to happen in a song that starts off kind of like sort of dark ballady kind of song like that.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, it's very
it's a
proggy.
journey.
Yeah, super proggy.
Yeah.
So okay, Rob, thoughts?
I used to listen to this song a lot, but have revisiting it, just going, wow, it's got a very throwback to late 60s, early 70s in that breakdown, da, 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 da. It's very like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple. Like it's got all of those signatures in there. So that I love it for that reason. And then the solo, kind of kicks off like it could be Lukather.
Yeah.
It's very like rock / fusiony, but it's got that heavily affected rack kind of sounding guitar, dripping in delay, and then he sort of tips the hat to Eddie Van Halen, and even I hear some like little Nuno-isms in there towards the end of that solo, and it's just, man, it's not 9 minutes wasted, that song, whatever it is, but it's like it really is quite a journey, and it makes you smile by the end of it. You're like, this is not depressing. Kind of starts out,
Yeah.
But,
That whole album
it's
to
a
me
beautifully crafted song.
That whole album to me generally is such a, even though there's some sort of darker moments on there, but it's such an uplifting album, and the sad thing is how bad the reviews were. It was really, I mean, people kind of like, the critics kind of like Whisper Your Name, but all up, everyone said, why does Harry Connick Jr. do this? Go back to doing jazz standards. Because, I mean, he only did this and then he did Star Turtle, the next album, which was sort of his sort of...
Yeah.
And then he just went back to crooner, and I think it's such a waste. There were such good songs. Both albums.
My favorite's Here
excellent.
Comes the Big Parade. I love that song. Like,
Give me some of that
so
fried chicken.
so good. But I was watching the Beato Kirk Hammett thing today, and he said Metallica are actually proud of the weird decisions, the albums that weren't well received or that are a bit strange. So like Lulu and Death Magnetic,
that's
and
a bit
those songs that
strange.
created some controversy, he goes, because you need that in your catalog, because there's going to be fans that revisit your catalog and go, this is really weird, but then they like it for a different reason. Otherwise, you just, every album's the same, and the critics are going to hassle you for being, one album after the other. Like, they can't all be AC/DC. So they've got to have that.
They've done well.
Light and shade and diversity in your catalog, and that's why they've lasted so long.
That's a really interesting point. I think some of the iconic albums we've chosen too have been sort of transitional albums. So like when we did Van Halen, Rob, you picked Fair Warning?
Yeah.
Which kind of a different album.
Yeah.
We did Achtung Baby by U2, which now sounds like U2, but at the time,
It
bit
didn't
of a
sound like
shift.
U2 at all, no, yeah.
And they're albums we chose because we loved them. So
Yeah.
maybe there's something in this. That's really interesting.
Okay, Rob. Honestly, now safety's to stay in other place. Not Rob.
Yeah.
Matt. Rob just did
Matt,
it.
the other Rob.
The other Rob.
Rob
two.
We're back on that. The other Rob.
Callbacks.
I think again, you've summarized it so well. Long solos, which it's great. It's great. It's funny because Whisper Your Name is really top 40, and honestly now is really not top 40.
No.
And I love that about the album. So that's, I guess, perhaps back to that point about not everyone got the album at the time, but the solo's going, and then he starts doing those bendy taps. Rob mentioned the Van Halenism.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's tapping, and he just keeps going for a while. It's great.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's
It's not just like a one-off. He keeps it.
And it's all really
keeps it
interesting
rocking.
stuff. It's all like really
It's tasty
diverse,
too.
the solo from start to finish. Like it's never just widdly, like, just to fill space and fill time. It's all has, it seems like everything has intention. So, and then, that great run that's also harmonized right at the end. Which is, loved it.
Genius.
All right, okay. Well, then the last song I chose, again, a little bit different, but Joe Slam and the Spaceship. Now, that's kind of a more instrumental kind of tune, and that came out of a jam kind of thing. And to me, okay, so the funny thing with this is, so that's the song, to me, that sounds the most like the Meters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yet-
yeah,
I get
can
that.
see that now.
Yet
Again.
it's a different drummer and a bass player on that track.
Oh, really? You're messing with my brain with all this meter
It's
stuff, Gabor.
that track,
I love
it's
it.
a different drummer and a different bass player, but it is the most. It sounded because I didn't know until I just researched this album that it was the drummer and the bass player of the Meters. I never knew this.
Wow.
That's something new. And then I went, oh yeah, I listened to it in the car and I went, oh, of course, this sounds so Meters. But yeah, then I looked in the thing and that was one of the 2 or 3 songs with a different drummer and a different bass player. But so what I wrote down is it starts off actually sounding. There's a song on the Mr. Bungle album Disco Volante called "The Bends."
Another
And
callback.
It starts off sounding like a Mr. Bungle album. It's really weird, quirky sound effects and a kind of strange sounding organ at the start.
Okay.
And like almost sort of a bit avant-garde sounding, but then it goes into this really cool little instrumental thing with some interesting kind of guitars that kind of come in and out in different parts. And the thing I wrote down is very Meters reminiscent. Even the guitar, that wah part on the guitar is very Meters. Because Leo Nocentelli, the guitar player in the Meters, is sort of known for his rhythmic wah playing.
Yeah, right.
And you can. There's a great video reviewing the Leo Nocentelli signature wah on a YouTube channel that I might mention later on.
Super fun, happy, awesome.
Yes, those guys.
Yeah, cool. That's great.
But yeah,
That's great.
okay,
I'm glad you did
let's
that.
go with Matt first this time. The other Rob, Matt. What were your thoughts? What's your thoughts on that song?
Yeah, this is such a great track. I think what I liked all the parts and stuff. I think what stuck out to me at the time was he had this really long groove and I was waiting for someone to explode into a solo. And it doesn't really happen.
No.
And it just showed me that you can just sit on a groove, sit in that super deep pocket, and it's really cool. It's really cool. So I guess, yeah, a lot of the stuff I was listening to at the time was either pop or rock stuff or instrumental stuff when then, it's a guitar-led melody or it's a horn solo or something. But this just kind of sits on that thing. It's so good. So love it.
I find always when you have a lot of really high caliber players, but they're all just restrained. It's not about showing off. It's about a song. It's about a groove. That's to me. That's always hats off with that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean some modern stuff that does that. I mean in a different vibe, but some of the Wolfpack stuff.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
is more just about sitting on
a cool groove.
Sitting on this groove, and yeah, it's fun.
Matt, the other Rob.
Yeah, it's a nice slow jam that's kind of reminiscent of the Meters and maybe even Booker T and the MGs kind of got that vibe.
Yeah.
But it honestly, after about a minute, I usually skip to the next track.
Okay.
It's like it doesn't have enough fireworks for me. You're in the right mood, yeah. Like I play it through, but yeah, it just reminded me when I was listening back while we were researching this. That I was like, oh yeah, I remember pretty much skipping this
that
track
every time.
most of the time after the first minute.
To me, it's a song.
Fair enough.
It's a driving home after a gig, sort of wind down kind of track. That's sort of where you just sit there and it's just a cool groove, and you're driving home and you're doing that night at the Roxbury thing with your head.
I can't do that. I had a 2-hour drive home at midnight the other night, and it's just headphones, Bon Jovi. That's the only thing that gets me home.
It's interesting. We all owned it
Yeah.
when it came out,
Yeah.
ish, and sounds like we played it a lot.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a great album, and
That doesn't always happen.
no.
Sometimes it's two of us.
Yeah.
And I wonder who the
We know
black
which
sheep
true.
is usually.
Occasionally one of us, Gabor, and then yeah, that's cool. Good record, man.
All right. So yeah, I found this kind of difficult, and I had a couple of, maybes. I put them in there. I took them out. But I finally settled on Taking the Long Way by the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks.
They're not Dixie anymore.
No, and it was recorded in 2005 and 6, and this record was like, there's a documentary about the making of this record, and it's amazing. And if you haven't seen it, it's one of the best music documentaries out there. it's all on the back of them saying we're ashamed that George Bush is from Texas when they were over in the UK touring. And the fallout in America was massive in the South. They destroyed their music. They ran them over with steamrollers and set fire to everything, and which is that's kind of silly because you're just burning money. Like, why would you do that?
Let's go and buy the album so we can burn it.
At least take it to a book exchange and get $2 for it or something, Like, anyway, getting sidetracked again. It was produced by Rick Rubin, and it debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. So despite all of that, it went on to sell over 2.5 million copies. It won 5 Grammys, including Album of the Year, Record of the Year, and Song of the Year. And to give you an idea of like why it's an accidental, iconic guitar record, 2 words: John Mayer. Right. So John Mayer is the guitar player.
Oh, really?
There is also Mike Campbell from the Heartbreakers on this.
Oh, wow.
The drums are all Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Really? Oh, wow.
With percussion provided by Lenny Castro, who's been in Toto, played with Stevie Nicks, Eric Clapton, and more.
Wow.
Justin Meldal Johnson,
cool.
who was for 20 years Beck's musical director, played with Paramore, Nine Inch Nails, St. Vincent, and M83. And there's guest backing vocals and co-writers who include Bonnie Raitt, Sheryl Crow, and Keb Mo.
Wow, I didn't know any of that.
Man.
Huge record, like a who's who.
That's huge.
And so the first track I chose was Baby Hold On, and it was co-written by the Chicks and Pete Yorn. So yeah, I'll blaze through this one and then get your thoughts on track by track. Cool. So it kicks off with a beautiful acoustic guitar intro. It's got real Beatles vibes. And I love that descending progression, which is, one of my favorites. And how that last chord goes to the minor. It just creates that little bit of tension, which I've always loved. And the John Mayer solo, it's just killer.
That would have been very early in his career. That he would have been pretty. For 2005, did you say?
Yeah, so I think it might have been. Was that just before Continuum? Because he's really got that Continuum tone dialed right in.
Cool. That's interesting. I would have never thought. Because I mean, probably. I guess
Continuum
just
was
after
08,
Heavier Things,
was it?
around about Heavier Things. When was that?
Yeah, it could have been. If only we had a way to look it up.
Yeah. It's a shame.
If only there was a thing.
I do have Spotify open, so I can quickly navigate.
Sure.
Get that info. All right, so...
while you're doing that, I guess, John Mayer, wow. Baby Hold On, it's got that really long fade out as well, hey? Well, it's not even a fade out. They just keep jamming.
Yeah. So, Continuum was 06.
Great.
Okay. So just before. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Puts it right in at this time when they were recording that. So
wow, okay.
They would have been recording at the same time.
That's cool.
Possibly. So, thoughts on this track, boys? Gabor?
I'm just blown away that by all these people that played on that album, and I had no idea about it. I thought it was great. Yeah, the outro thing, the long jam solo thing. I just wrote down what a cool long outro jam. That's basically all I wrote down.
Yeah, Matt.
Tone exclamation point. So again, the Mayer thing. It's light bulbs. Okay, that's cool. Just a great song. And the organs, like the three of us, we always talk about digging vintage organs, vintage electric piano sounds. So there's a bunch of that on all these songs, I guess. But it's cool. Mayer. Okay.
Key. Actually, the keys. It's coming. I mean, this is a guitar podcast, but the keys generally are quite cool on all three of those songs.
Yeah.
I like it that we're into keys. There's a certain sophistication.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But it's like, because then we can play less. Like, you can say more with less when you got the keyboards there. You can play around them,
Yeah.
Chord tones, all those types of things. So the second track I chose was So Hard. I chose this song primarily for the baritone solo.
That's cool. That's what I wrote down. It's actually question mark if it was a baritone, but yeah, it's a cool.
There are much better songs on the album, but from a purely guitar perspective, this just has some beautifully picked up arpeggiated chords, and again, sweetly recorded and layered acoustic guitars. And John, I'm assuming, plays the baritone on this because no one else is. There's other guitar players mentioned, but I feel like they're lap steels and acoustic and dobro players. He's credited as lead guitar. So
okay.
He just kicks in with that simple melodic baritone, and that always piques my ear when I hear it. As the sound, like the sound of a baritone is so signature.
It's a cool
what do you
tone,
think,
hey?
Matt?
Yeah, really meaty, that tone. And I love the phrasing. Like, it's really, I don't know if simple's the right word. It's very subtle and just clever, really cool. I remember reading an interview with Mayer around that time, or maybe it was around heavier things, and he was saying, there's some frustration that I don't play more. Like it's, there's an idea that there's a producer holding me back, but he said, no, that's how I like to play.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the trio records, he starts going a bit more bonkers, which is fun for everyone as well. We all love that, but that solo, it's cool for the song. Love it.
Gabor?
Well, that's what I've got written down. Well, I've got written down baritone question mark because I wasn't sure if it was a baritone or it was something else. But less is more approach. That's what I wrote down. It's a great solo. Again, it kind of blows me away that that's John Mayer, but like with all that stuff, the acoustic guitar sound, the sound of the album is great. Like the acoustic guitars sound excellent.
Yeah.
And I mean the harmonies always sound good with them. But just a less is more approach baritone. That's what I wrote down. Really like that with explanation mark. I really like that solo. Yeah.
Cool. And the third song I chose was I Hope. And this is the one that's co-written by Keb Mo.
Okay.
Real gospel vibes. And was there ever a song more set up for a classic Mayer solo than this one? Cruises along with that major feel, and then John jumps in during the outro, bouncing between the major and minor pentatonic blues licks, and then throws in that little harmonized melodic lines. It's beautiful. I love it. It's such a well-constructed song and recorded. The whole section is just a vamp over one chord, like B flat. And
that's syncopation too, the guitar and the keys. That's really cool. That's what, I wrote pretty much what you said, the harmonies, the cool harmonies that sort of sneak in every once in a while. And just the syncopation between the guitar and the keys, sort of they had almost answer call kind of thing. That's cool. I really like that.
Matt?
Yeah, some similar things to Baby Hold On. I think that long outro, great. I love it that they're just taking their time on this stuff. It's so good. And the production, I noted the production as well. The production for all of it is just beautiful, beautiful tones, beautiful parts.
Yeah, it's a killer record. Like, obviously the single came out, and which was what was the single? Not Ready to Make Nice. And even in that song, it's great. And there's some really great country, dirty, bluesy songs like Lubbock or Leave It. And there's just some really great guitar moments on that. And so that was my choice for iconic album, or accidental iconic album, Taking the Long Way, the Chicks.
This episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott, ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and the McNally Smith College of Music. I was one of the beta testers for the course and can say as a music educator, I was really impressed by the logical sequence of learning. The course has also been endorsed by players such as Brett Garsed and Greg Cup. For more details, check out the links in our show notes. Alrighty, so we're talking accidental iconic albums. So I chose a 90s album like Gabor. I chose Funk Odyssey by Jamiroquai.
Yeah.
I I owned this album in the 90s. I think I bought it. I think it was maybe a logical extension of some of the UK acid jazz I was listening to at the time, although this was arguably more along the lines of future funk or space disco or whatever they were
Space
calling
disco.
Jamiroquai.
I like that. I hadn't heard that term before. Space
kinda cool.
disco.
I think I probably had. I mean, I know I played a bunch of these songs on cover band gigs. Maybe that's why I bought the album. I can't remember, but I remember digging the record. Were you guys aware of Jamiroquai in the 90s, 2000s?
Pretty much from the first album. Like,
Same
Yeah,
here.
right.
a friend of mine was into him and just like, you got to check this out. And then,
Yeah.
followed every album up until probably this one.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Live in Verona DVD, I think, is the
That was
last
great.
thing I bought.
In the rain.
Yeah.
So good. So yeah, I chose this album. I think because I owned it and got into it, and happily surprised at so much cool guitar playing. So the guitar player on this was Rob Harris. Now this was Jamiroquai's 5th album, but it was Rob Harris's first album
Oh, okay.
with the band, and he's pretty much been the guy since then. Still performing with Jamiroquai now. Cool player.
Little fun fact. Little Rob's fun fact by Gabor. The guitar player before was a guy called Simon Katz,
Yes.
who then played with Gorillaz and also with Sia.
Yes.
Gabor's fun fact. Thank you.
Great fun fact. Actually, I found that too, looking this up. I didn't know he was one of the Gorillaz guys.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. So this album, though, I think arguably it's got a few more guitar tones and textures, maybe compared to some of the early stuff. I don't know, but it's any of the catalog's good. But this album, 3 songs I chose. I'll bang through them and open for comments. Love Philosophy, massive radio hit. What I love about it's got the funky guitars, but there's a lot of subtlety. So in the verses, it's like that AM radio kind of tone, scritchy, scratchy, chicky chaka stuff. And then the chorus, bit more full range, some unison bends, some slightly distorted stuff. This song's actually, I used to play it a lot in cover bands. It's really hard to play with one guitar. I don't know how you did it. What'd you do, Gabor? How'd you handle the one guitarness?
I remember it being trickier than a lot of people think, because he does that sort of slide, that bend and then slide in
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the rocking all over the world status quo thing.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Goes up 2 octaves
Oh, that's awesome.
without a whammy pedal. Gabor, just saying.
Oh, that's lame. You need to use a whammy pedal.
Sorry, that was a low blow. It was 2 octaves low.
Yes.
Yeah, Love Philosophy. Thoughts from the
Yeah, I thought it
Total.
was like it's an example of a pretty stock standard dance track being transformed by some really creative guitar ideas. And a really great out solo, especially on the aforementioned Live in Verona DVD.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's so cool. And I think there's one live in Abbey Road, and he plays like a slightly different solo on that. It's a bit cleaner. And Rob Harris is good. I checked out when I was doing some research. He's got a couple of solo tracks out recently on Spotify, like instrumental guitar stuff. And yeah, it's a good listen. He's a creative player.
He did a fair bit of touring with Leo Sayer too. Played guitar for Leo Sayer over in Europe for a while. Rob Harris. No, I went to see them in Brisbane for the when they toured for that album. And,
wow, cool.
Yeah, I mean the band is fantastic, but
yeah.
the main standout thing, and I think you can sort of see it in the Live at Verona, but not so much because it's also hidden under the stage. He had almost, I think, full stack, two quad boxes, 2 4x12s.
Okay.
And Hughes and Kettner tri-amp,
Yeah.
like big sucker amp. I guess that's where a lot of tones come from as well. And I think it's 2 heads.
Okay.
Was
I
it
don't-
Music Man
whether one is-
Silhouette? Because he was a Music Man player,
Silhouette,
wasn't
white
he?
Music
Yeah.
Man Silhouette. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I think these days he's playing PRS quite a bit and some semis. I'd be interested to know what he's doing on that solo stuff, Rob. But
yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was
lots
a
of-
Music Man Cutlass or something
Okay.
that I've seen in some of the promo for the solo stuff.
Okay, yeah, cool. But yeah, definitely that silhouette he played in this era heaps. That's cool
Yeah.
guitar.
Yeah, so but great live. There was such a great live band, and so many jam moments, and the guitar he's a really cool guitar player, really really good.
A lot of this stuff works so well live, and if you got a really aware band, you can have a lot of fun with it. Yeah, these and other tunes. Cool. Corner of the Earth, beautiful nylon string, Latin-ish kind of influences. Not much more for me to say on that tune. I mean, the whole production's cool, but the nylon's really nice touch.
I love that the orchestral intro and outro to that, and I think it's in the middle as well. It's really beautiful. I used to play that song in a duo with a female singer. We didn't do the intro and outro, but it's such a cool little, quite a relatively simple but great little tune. It's really that was one of my favorites on that album.
I think you can hear like the sympathetic strings on a choral sitar or something. So that sounded really cool. And the detuned like Spanish nylon is really cool. But I kind of like how sometimes those nylon strings are recorded and they must turn the mic preamps up on the mixer because, there's so much like depth and there's a little bit of like fuzz on before it cleans it up, when he's hitting those big drop D chords in that orchestral build up. But there's like the preamps are really working, on those microphones and getting that. Look at the guitars to sound a little bit gnarly, which I was like.
Yeah, it's kind of like got this hyper fidelity, the nylon in that tune.
Yeah.
That's cool. And yeah, drop D, I hadn't thought that because it's in D minor, or kind of like a D modal thing almost, but yeah, D like a minor mode. But yeah, I hadn't thought, good old tune it down. I mean, it was the 90s where everyone was in drop D then, so even this stuff.
Yeah, well, it was, it kind of was a throwback to our Cooler Shaker vibes as well, with that Middle Eastern kind of vibes and the sitar. Yeah.
Mm.
And the wolf in the film clip. There's a wolf that runs around in the film clip. Anyway.
Is there really?
Yeah.
I'll look that up. Last track I chose, again, the whole album's full of cool stuff, but Stop Don't Panic has got some really fun guitar stuff as well. Thoughts from you guys?
I loved all the little stabs and the single note stuff. And I'm a sucker for the Waka Chaka.
The Waka
Chuckers,
Is that what we call it? That
when
makes
in
sense.
doubt, Waka Chaka.
Waka Chaka, that's...
There's been many a White Tree gig I've done where, just got so many great musicians. The only spot for me is to Waka Chaka.
Waka Chaka, yeah. And, I've been there too. That's
it's the Nile Rodgers approach too.
The safe way out.
Yeah.
Find that one note.
But it's also quite contemporary. Like, even though it has those Nile Rodgers vibes, Rob Harris has sort of brought it into the noughties, with the use of whammy and sort of, I could hear influences of Rage Against the Machine and Muse. Not the strongest song on the album, as you said, but I think it's a real showcase for what Harris can create, all the layers he can create. And for that reason, it's great. A great listen.
That's, yeah.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I agree. And Waka Chaka.
Waka Chaka.
Waka Chaka.
Go Waka Chaka-ing. Go forth and Waka Chaka.
Thank you for that term. All the fuzzy stuff too. Like there's some fuzzy bass, there's some fuzzy guitars, there's some fuzzy
There's
filters.
some stuff. It sounds to me like it's recorded direct. When you record a guitar direct with a fuzz pedal and stuff, it sounds to me there could be some of that going on every once in a while. I don't know. It's hard. There's so much going on in some parts that it's hard to sort of tell
it's hard to tell what's
is
what.
a synthesizer, what's the guitar. But there could be some parts that sound like a guitar going direct with a cool fuzz.
Yeah, maybe. So there you go. Funk Odyssey, Jamiroquai. Rob Harris is a guitar player. Rob Harris was co-wrote so much stuff on that record as well, which was kind of cool for his first one in there.
It was quite rare too for Jamiroquai because I'm not sure if it was that album or the previous album, one of the main co-songwriters, Toby, whatever his name was, the keyboard player, left the band as well.
Uh-huh.
Because prior to that, it was mostly J.K., the singer. He would sing stuff to that Toby guy. And whatever his last name was, Toby, he was the main sort of other guy in Jamiroquai up until either the album before this or this album. And then he would kind of translate it into a musical thing, and then they would show it to the other people. It was mostly J.K. wrote everything, or wrote it kind of like Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, I was just thinking that.
He was sort of singing it to
singing
people.
Singing the riff.
Down to guitar parts and all that sort of stuff as well. He was singing the parts to the people. And I think it was either this album or the previous one where the keyboard player left as well. And Stuart Zender, the original bass player, left, and Nick Fife came in, who's a great player too, actually. Uh-huh. And then Simon Katz left, and Rob Harris came in. And I think he started letting other people in on the songwriting process a bit more. I think he became less, this is me, and
right.
So it's good to see sort of him, diversifying by letting other people do some stuff too.
Yeah, cool. Well, there you go. There's 3 accidental iconic albums. Yeah. I think people listening at home are probably thinking of their own as well. This was a cool idea, Gabor. Thanks for bringing it along. Great to revisit some of these records.
Yeah, maybe the listeners out there on social media somewhere, leave a note. Let us know what are your favorite accidental albums.
Totally.
My favourite moment was just shocking you guys with the studio lineup for the Dixie Chicks album.
Mate, it just didn't stop. You just kept calling out famous names.
I'm sure I left a couple out, but no, they were the big ones.
That's cool. So, Rob, when you're not surprising your fellow iconic roundtable pals with the band lists, what are you doing? Where can we find out more about you?
Gigging, and more gigging. Living in the 70s, living in the 80s. All the information can be found at roadtripent.com.
Fantastic. And Gabor, when you're not cranking out the 90s Harry Connick records, what else are you doing?
Not much more, really. That's about it for me. For example, like I mentioned before, if you want to watch a video where we show off the Leo Chantelli from the Meters signature Cry Baby Wah, why not go to the Super Fun Awesome Happy Time Pedal Show? That's all one word because we don't do spaces. The Super Fun Awesome Happy Time Pedal Show on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook for the older folks. Check it out. And also our podcast. We're sort of doing it more regularly again now, our podcast as well. So
that's great.
Check it.
Seems to be the place to check out new Fender Paranormal series too.
Yeah. The Squire Paranormal and little scoop. I mean, depending on when this comes out, but the Made in Japan Aerodyne Special and Elemental seed.
Which are unsurprisingly good guitar.
Oh, they're great
good stuff.
They're lovely.
All right, well, that's about it from us. Big thanks to Fretboard Biology, sponsors of the show. Please check out the links in the show and the special deal going on at the moment with those guys over there. Thanks to Rob and Gabor, and thanks to you, the listener, for tuning in. And we just like to leave you with just some words to live your life by. And we found there's none better than Michael Schenker, who once told us to
keep rocking, keep on rocking.
Keep on rocking, indeed.
Indeed.
Catch you next time.
Bye.